All right, so today I want to introduce our new partner that some people have already started working with. This is Let's Eat Grandma, which is the most bizarre name of any company that I've ever heard before. It is Chris and Matt. Chris is in top left on my screen. I don't know where he is on yours, but he's got the headphones on. Yeah, right there. He's waving. And then Matt has the crazy handlebar mustache there. It's really intense right now. You didn't have that the first time I met. Excited to have these guys on board. I'm really enjoyed working with them. I met with them several times, and they've been working with several of our students that have graduated the course. And I don't want to take any of their thunder. I think it makes sense for Chris and Matt for you guys to introduce who you are, what you do, what the hell your name means. And
yeah,
just a brief intro.
It's a good question. So there's an old grammar joke that says if you take the comma out of let's eat grandma, you're saying you want to eat your grandmother, versus when you include the comma, you're saying let's eat grandma, like together at dinner. So as a writing company, we think that punctuation, and Patrick says, why you want to eat my grandma? I do not want to eat your grandma. So just the importance of punctuation kind of showing that it can kind of skew those differences. So we're kind of quirky. We have been doing this for about 4 years now. So we started this in 2014, up when we were in New York at Cornell, and just moved down over here because we grew up here originally. So we love helping job seekers. That is our mission, is to help in any way possible with the job search. So it's kind of become our core mission to help in all aspects of that. So I was just telling Matt, we started a podcast called the Career Warrior Podcast. We actually just rebranded it, and we're doing that name change today. But it's really about helping job seekers in every way we can. So LinkedIn, resume, cover letters, motivation, job strategy, and all of that's really part of our mission. So yeah, a little long-winded there, but yeah, you're saying that.
I'm super excited to have you guys on board. I think that we're the first boot camp to really partner with a company like this, where everyone that goes through the boot camp will get access to Let's Eat Grandma to help you with your resume, your cover letter, and your LinkedIn profile. So our goal at Covalence is to make sure that when you guys get done with the course, that you get a job as fast as possible. And a lot of that has to do with getting through the application process and all of these filters that are being put on the front end of that application process, so that the recruiters and the hiring managers aren't overloaded with just tons of resumes that are irrelevant. So can one of you guys talk a little bit about that and how you help get past that?
Sure. So I'm on the mic, so I'll keep talking. But yeah, applicant tracking systems are a huge pain point for a lot of job seekers. So we find it very important to look really closely at the job postings that you're applying for. So if you are working with us, one of the things that we'll do is we'll ask you to submit sample job postings, so URLs of places that you're applying for, because that's one of the best ways that we can really take a close look at the types of keywords that recruiters would be using to filter out resumes. So it's really painful. Like a lot of the times recruiters will put up a job posting and they'll get hundreds and hundreds of applicants, and they won't even see your subject or name. So it's really important to do whatever you can to optimize that resume, to push it to the top of those searches. And it's not easy sometimes. Sometimes it does take going around these applicant tracking systems, meeting people in person, physically getting your resume in the hands of recruiters at job fairs. There's a really cool job fair coming up next week at Capital Factory, which everyone should really attend here in Austin.
Yeah, I don't know how many we're in Austin, but
yeah, but the idea is just to go out there and really do what you can. But
I think that brings up a good point of all the different ways to apply to jobs. I know that you guys have made available to the students as well a learning course, essentially, for how to get a job and all the things you should be thinking about. Can you talk a little bit about what that is, how it works, and the things that they'll learn when that kicks off for them?
I'll go ahead and jump in and introduce. So we recently introduced a 13-lesson customer success campaign. And what it is, it's simply an education course for everyone that gets our help with resume writing. And so at some point we're figuring, okay, like Chris is saying, we're going to get you through those ATS filtering systems. We're going to get you a really great resume. We're going to get you some excellent writing help. But how do we take you a step further? How do we get you to recognize how best to use our materials and how to apply effectively, kind of what jobs you should be seeking and how you should be going after them, how you should be retailoring the cover letter to get the most use out of those keywords, and among many, many other job-related materials. And so over the course of about 6 weeks, you're going to be part of this program working with us where we educate you on how best to use these materials and also how to get a job here in 2018. Because, let me tell you, folks, that landscape has changed so much in the last few years. Applying now today is so different than it was even just a few years ago compared to even 10 years ago. And so we try to keep updated with all the research. We have many, many brilliant minds that we work with, from career coaches to recruiters and hiring managers, just people that we know very closely and that have been giving us these education kind of over the years. So we're sharing that with you. So it's really nice. We open this program up to everyone that works with us.
Awesome. So one of the things that we run into when a student graduates and they start applying to jobs, like in the past, this is what used to happen, is that they'd come to us and say, I don't know what's going on. I've applied to 50 jobs and I've gotten no interviews. And they think that it has something to do with them personally, like that they've done something wrong or they're not good enough or they're not ready. And I'm like, guys, if you're not even getting an interview, then it has nothing to do with you, right? It has something to do with your resume. That's the only thing that you've done to this point to get a job is put your resume through some application. And if they don't interview you, then you know that there's something wrong with your resume, or you're just not a fit for the job. And I think that, working with a team like Let's Feed and Grandma is going to really help us overcome a lot of those issues and make sure that you're actually getting on the interviews, because the interview is really where your time to shine is. Because I'll say that when you're applying for a junior level developer position, it's really less about what you know and about being a good culture fit, showing that you're passionate about technology, that you're a fast learner. Those things are the things that they're looking for when they're hiring a low-level developer or junior-level developer. So if you're not getting an interview, then that's purely on the resume. So that's really what brought me around to wanting to find somebody to help us with this, because we wanted to find experts in the field that knew how to solve this problem.
Definitely. And just one piece of encouragement for everyone. When you do work with us, you'll have an option to schedule a follow-up call with either Matt or myself. Definitely take advantage of it. It's seriously something that we offered because we really want people to end up having success. So, say you're not getting the results that you want at a certain point, or you're not getting enough, that's what that call is specifically for. So we all have the same interest. It's for you guys to land a job. So,
and what is your expectations of somebody getting a job once they start the service, or what kind of success rate have you had?
Very good. We've had a lot of clients who have been making transitions who have had trouble before in the past. I'll speak specifically about one client that I wrote for, and I forgot what his position was. It was like a customer service representative, and he ended up taking a very similar boot camp to this, and he ended up having like a lot of trouble. So he was applying like 1,000 different times and just not getting results. But so he ended up working with us, and granted, I won't take all the credit. Like, this guy was a very hard worker, and he ended up he really put in the efforts to apply. But a few weeks after working with us, he ended up landing his dream job, which was as a network security analyst for PwC. So Fortune 500 company, and he was instantly, he quadrupled the salary. So wow. I think that really goes to show what can happen if A, you keep persisting, and B, if you redefine your strategy by getting a better resume, LinkedIn, all of it. So
yeah, and I think that you brought up my favorite point of all of this, that I think that a lot of our students or people who take the course really don't grasp, and that is that getting your first job in the industry is a lot of work, and you've got to be persistent. So you've got to put in the same amount of effort that you did throughout the course when you thinking about going to get your next job. So I know you said that he put in a lot of work to do it. What are some of the things that he did, or what was the type of work he was doing that you saw him putting in?
Yeah, definitely. So, and on top of that, he had a family to take care of, like 2 young kids and an extra full-time job. And so it was like a full-time job. Yeah, full-time job on top of his full-time job. But let's see if I can show like.
And he didn't go through Covalence, so he probably paid like 2 or 3 times what we charge.
Exactly.
He was definitely, ready to find a job, I'm sure.
Yeah. And he, like, I will speak to how he collaborated with us as a client. He was very good about like sending us those job postings and letting us know exactly like where he was applying for. He took that consultation with us seriously. So we were able to really find out where he was applying and come up with a really strong resume that got him noticed. So
it boiled down to a lot of just communication, right?
Communication. That's specifically to how he was working with us. Mm-hmm. But yeah, on top of that, he just kept applying online just over and over and over again. And that's actually how he ended up getting the job, was online. I always advocate to do everything, but that's just how he ended up getting his job. So,
you mentioned doing more than just applying. Can you dive into that a little bit of like how to reach out to hiring managers? What are some of the things that people can do that go beyond just applying to the job?
Yeah, definitely. So I forgot what statistic it was. It was like 85% of those job postings like aren't even online or posted. So I really, really recommend looking beyond just what's posted and doing research beyond just Indeed, Monster, and ZipRecruiter. And additionally, this is actually advice we had from someone here at Capital Factory, but look to see where what jobs are posted. And then beyond that, go find a contact. Like, don't go necessarily just through Indeed, but go find a recruiter, somebody who works for that company on LinkedIn, then reach out to them separately. It's not necessarily like you're asking for a job, but it's some way of getting connected or seeing if you have a connection to end up getting that foot through the door. So yeah. Otherwise, you may just get lost in those hundreds of applications that are being sent through that ATS software. So,
yeah, I think that one of the things that I will tell students too is like, don't position yourself as, hey, do you have any jobs open?
Right.
That won't go well because everybody's saying that to them more than likely. But say, hey, I'm trying to get a job as a developer in the industry, and I'm just looking to go buy coffee for people that are in the industry and just chat and just talk about what you guys do, what it's like to be a developer, like anything that you can do that's very more conversational and less like tactical. Like you want to get to them so you can go get money from them. Like people don't like that. They don't respond well to it. So, just reach out and ask for help. You'd be surprised how many people are willing to help people, despite the media and what it tells us about people.
Exactly. And I'll chime in here. Just use your network. And Chris can speak a lot about LinkedIn and kind of how to use that network specifically, but just overall see who's in your community, who who they might know, and kind of exactly go after Matt's approach here. And we call that informational interviews. That's the term I've heard since I was growing up, is just to ask people if you can learn from them. Just a very simple 10-minute call. Oftentimes, kind of when you approach that conversation like that and they actually end up liking you, they'll say, you know what, we're not looking for anyone myself. However, I know someone who would be a very good fit for you. And so that's worked wonders for people.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's tons of networking events these days that you can go to. Show up to those. You never know who you're going to meet. Not just technical events either. Don't go to just dev meetups and that kind of stuff. Just go to general networking and business events. Because you just don't know who you're going to meet and what you're going to find out. So sometimes meeting developers isn't necessarily the best way to find your first job. It's about finding those hiring managers, those people that need to get stuff done, and they're looking for somebody to do it. So
yeah, and Matt, I just shared this in the chat, but I'll do a screen share so people who are watching the recording can see. but we just last week just did a really good podcast with this awesome career coach we're partners with, but it's about how to effectively apply for jobs, which goes really deep into detail about what you and I were just talking about, which is how to like go through LinkedIn, how to use it as a resource, and how to do, Matt, what you said is just like not ask for the job, but say, hey, I'd love to, meet up for coffee to, get your advice. I'm a up and coming software developer, and the approach is like you're asking for help on like how to improve your career rather than asking for a job. So I think what this podcast episode hits upon really well is how to do that effectively. And it just would be a really good way to get more inspired and familiarized with that concept. So
awesome. Very cool. Yeah, I think I think that would be probably one of the top ways people are getting jobs these days. Just with the amount of applications that are coming through the system, it just makes, when you can have a personal connection with somebody, whatever it is, it just puts you on a different level than anybody else who's just coming in randomly. And I think that all of you would be surprised if you sit here and you think about people that that are developers, or they work somewhere where there are developers. I mean, at this day and age, if a company has more than 50 people, more than likely they have a developer or two at least. So anybody that that's working in the corporate world, ask them, say, hey, you're a friend. Do you have developers at your job? Can I meet with one of them and just talk to them? Like, using those connections where you can go through somebody else who can refer you is going to make it even easier for you.
Mm-hmm.
So don't think that you need to know a developer specifically. Just know somebody at a company of any size. Developers are everywhere. It's just astounding how many developers there are at companies today. When I was working with Merrill Lynch through Microsoft, I was on a campus of 4,000 developers. If you think about who Merrill Lynch employs, you don't first think about a developer. But the way that Merrill Lynch is the best at what they do in the industry is by building all of these tools and services to support their financial advisors. So every company is doing that, trying to use development and software to get a leg up in the industry. So anybody that working at a company of any size definitely has developers trying to do that for them. So try to think beyond just the technical aspects of it and think about just business in general, right? And those people can connect you to the people that you're looking for.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, I don't want to make this last too long, so let's go ahead and take some questions from the people who are on the call, and we'll let Chris and Matt answer those, or anybody else who can chime in.
And I think I saw one from Patrick earlier, and I forgot to make sure I want to answer that. Has the market research behind resume building surprised you? Just wanted to kind of delve into that and kind of see what you meant by that. Just basically seeing kind of how resumes can be used impactfully or how they can be successful. I'm trying to get to, if you don't mind clarifying that one. Or if anyone else.
I like watching stuff like the power of influence and stuff like that. So I was just wondering, when you started getting into this, was there any like preconceived notions you had that actually surprised you by seeing the actual market research behind what companies expect?
The actual research behind like building the business itself?
Yeah, and figuring out like what companies expect in a resume.
No, that's really good. And so much, like I said earlier, has been changing over the last few years. So that's a really good question. When we initially started, kind of where our head was at was just everyone needs a conventional, just work history, just a profile telling about you. At the very least, you need that. And that was 4 years ago. Since then, a lot of kind of where the notion has changed is that companies want to know and learn more about the human behind the piece of paper. Yes, they're looking for those skills. Yes, they're looking to see if you're educating yourself, going to boot camps, what kind of project you're using and how you're utilizing it out in the community, any other stuff like that, your work history. Of course, they want to know that, but also they want to know about the human behind the piece of paper. So one of the things that we've kind of uncovered is how can we kind of showcase their more human traits, their motivations, what they're interested in, what kind of company they thrive in, what kind of volunteer work and their mission, overall, just generally who they are and where they're going to thrive. And so as far as that goes, we've definitely uncovered a lot of research showing that companies are looking for that. Because in the end of the day, that they're not looking to hire a robot, as awesome and detailed and great work as you're going to do, and you all are already doing, they're looking for humans to fill that spot. And so they need to kind of see that human. They need to see like exactly how well you're going to do in that position. So that's one of the ways that we've kind of been surprised, I would say, to answer that question.
Yeah, we do a keywords workshop here every quarter. And one of the statistics that I found somewhat surprising is that recruiters will put a lot of emphasis also on position title. So they are searching using the keyword. So for instance, software developer to search for candidates, which kind of makes sense if you think about it. You're looking for people with experience. And so what we've had to do is find ways to integrate that specific keyword if you hadn't had that experience before in the past, and make sure it's a part of the resume. Otherwise, it's not going to come up and it's not going to be as good. But that was the single most searched keyword, and I was surprised by that. Soft skills actually was the least searched keyword. I think it was like 9%. So we kind of know what to look for in terms of what to integrate. And so I would say that I guess it surprised me, but that is a good question.
Yeah, and talking about, you guys brought up like robots and humans, which I think is interesting because that's where a lot of this has come from, is that with the advancements in AI and machine learning, that's where these platforms are using those technologies to filter out all these resumes. And they're not perfect yet, right? And they're really not perfect at all. There was one example of a image classification machine learning algorithm that if you changed one pixel in the image, it went from thinking it was a panda to like a cat. Like, so they're not perfect, they're imperfect. So you got to make sure that you know how they're working, and then how they're evolving. So having a company like Let's Eat Grandma have where they're in this industry thinking about it all the time, and as it changes, they're following those patterns. I'm really excited about having them in so that we can just continue to provide the best service to our students at the end so that you can get a job as fast as possible. So, well, guys, I really appreciate you joining up today. I know